welcome to Tell Me Your Story, the Real Impact series, daily inspirations with yours truly, Reverend Dr. D, and Dennis Henson, author of the Real Impact Daily Inspiration series. Dennis, it's wonderful to get back together again and to continue our journey towards the happiest place on earth.
Thank you, Richard. It's great to be here.
We're going to dive right into the story here and the story of the dreamer, the man who has brought happiness to, I would venture to say, billions of people over the years.
A glimmer of hope. The handwriting was on the wall, but Walt refused to go down easy. He worked day and night, desperately trying to save his business. A glimmer of hope did appear when the Diener Dental Institute offered Laugh-O-Gram a contract to produce a short about dental hygiene. Taking heart from this, Walt rehired some of the artists. Although the project paid $500, Disney invested in a new film, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, instead of paying his debt. At the time, it looked as though he had made a terrible mistake, but the move turned out to be one of the best choices he'd ever make. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland incorporated live action along with animated characters with background. It was an excellent demonstration of the advancements made at Laugh-O-Gram Studios. Nevertheless, it only added more debt to an already struggling company without a paying customer. It was too late. Walt's costs were more than he could handle by then. He couldn't even pay his own rent. Last days in Kansas City. Strapped for cash, Disney gave up his apartment and moved into his office. He slept on the floor, showered at the train station, and survived on an occasional $30 check from Roy. His diet was cold beans from a can and water. Still, even an empty bean can can bring good fortune if you have a big enough dream. An uninvited visitor. With the studio empty and Walt all alone with his thoughts, an uninvited visitor appeared. It was a tiny mouse, probably attracted by the smell of the cans in the trash. Startled by the intrusion, Disney jumped, and the frightened mouse scurried away. But the next day, as Walt worked at his drawing table, the mouse reappeared and looked at him with a questioning stare. Still, a little taken aback, Walt said, "Hi," and proceeded to do what he'd done so many times back on the farm. He struck up a conversation with the little critter. He imagined the mouse saying, "Hi, I'm Mortimer, but you can call me Mort." "Happy to have some company," Walt replied. "My name's Walt Disney, but my friends call me Diz." That night, Walt left out a few beans and some water, hoping to keep his new friend coming back. Disney became quite fond of that mouse, and the little guy seemed to enjoy sitting on Walt's drawing board, watching him draw. Walt took solace in Mort's company and found him a sympathetic creature. Eventually, he poured out his soul to Mort as if he were an actual person. Relating his successes and disappointments to the critter, Walt imagined the little fellow replying, "Gosh," or "Oh boy." Then for the really depressing stuff, "Aw, gee." And when Disney told Mort his dreams of the future, the mouse simply replied, "That sure is swell." Disney appreciated Mort and would again one day recall these conversations, but their friendship would soon be terminated. His studio was out of options, and young Disney accepted his third major disappointment. Laugh-O-Gram Studio was finished. Note: although it seemed Laugh-O-Gram was just another failure, that little studio incubated talent which would have a tremendous influence on the film industry for decades to come. Each of these notable animators and producers got their start in Kansas City at Laugh-O-Gram Studios. Ub Iwerks, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and Minnie Mouse. Friz Freleng, Porky Pig, Tweety, and Sylvester. Hugh Harman, Bosco, and Carmen Maxwell, Looney Tunes. A new direction. Walt wasn't just broke and out of a job. He was barefoot and soon to be homeless. He did own some shoes, but didn't have enough money to retrieve them from the cobbler shop. Defeated and despondent, Disney was forced to sell his most prized possession, his camera. With the money from that sale, he bailed out his shoes and purchased a train ticket to Los Angeles. His uncle Robert, who lived in Hollywood, agreed to let him stay with him until he could find work. Disney believed that in Southern California more people would be interested in his talent, and he could visit Roy, who was convalescing in a tuberculosis sanatorium there. On the train to Hollywood, a passenger asked him, "What business do you have in Hollywood?" When Disney replied, "I make cartoons," the passenger with a scowl said, "Oh." Arriving in California. Stepping off the train in Hollywood, Disney's only possessions were the clothes he was wearing, shirt, pants, sport coat that didn't match his pants, and shoes with patched holes, a cardboard suitcase containing an extra shirt, briefs, drawing materials, and partially completed reel of the Alice short, $40, and a burning desire to make it in the film industry. Walt wanted to make it big in Hollywood, but he wasn't sure how. Maybe he'd become an actor or a director. Even though his true passion was making animated films, he believed he'd missed his chance because the New York studios were far ahead. After settling in at Uncle Bob's, he methodically visited each movie studio and applied for acting and directing positions. But Walt was just one of the thousands seeking those jobs. Nevertheless, while at the studio, he spent the entire day asking questions and learning about the movie-making process. After being rejected for his initial applications, he reapplied for any available work, only to be turned away again. After several weeks without success, Uncle Bob asked him when he would get a job. Walt concluded that finding work in the film industry wasn't in the cards, so he talked to his uncle into allowing him to convert his garage into a studio. Fate stepped in. After setting up a makeshift office, he sent the Alice short to the New York film distributors, hoping to generate some interest. Then fate stepped in. When Margaret Winkler, the owner of Winkler Pictures, received Walt's film, the timing couldn't have been better. She'd been promoting Out of the Inkwell and Felix the Cat cartoons, and when Walt's film arrived, Out of the Inkwell had informed her that they were not renewing their contract, so she was looking for a replacement. And after viewing the Alice short, she immediately sent Disney a telegram. Her wire contained an offer for 6 Alice shorts and stated that Winkler Pictures would pay $1,500 for each short, about $22,000 in today's money. Walt couldn't believe his luck. Roy Disney. In the early 1920s, tuberculosis, TB, was another deadly illness with a high mortality rate. It was certainly not something to be taken lightly. Roy Disney, a U.S. Navy World War I veteran, contracted the disease, and in an attempt to save his life, the Navy placed him in one of the nation's top TB sanatoriums near Hollywood. Having been deathly ill, Roy convalesced in the hospital room when Walt appeared. The younger Disney was beside himself with both excitement and panic. "Oh, Roy, I don't know what to do. I received this offer from Winkler Pictures, and it's the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm sure I have the knowledge to create the films, but I don't have the resources or the business skills to pull this off." Handing Roy the telegram, he asked again, "Roy, what am I going to do?" The older Disney read the telegram, then turned and studied his little brother's face. He remembered Walt's hard work and the time he'd spent researching and developing his skills back in Kansas. The older Disney was also impressed that Walt realized he couldn't do this project alone and needed the help of someone possessing business skills. A miracle. Roy then got out of his sickbed, put on his street clothes, and the two brothers left the hospital together. The following day they formed Disney Brothers Studios, the first cartoon studio in California. Note, Roy lived 48 more years, outliving Walt, and never again exhibited any symptoms of tuberculosis. 8 years Walt Sr., Roy was a wise and kindly man who understood business finance, having worked in banking. He possessed the ability to raise capital, deal with employees, see to all other business matters, and somewhat control Walt's spending. His presence allowed Walt to do what he did best, be creative. Note, without Roy's help, the name Disney would probably not be recognized today. Disney Brothers Studio. On October 16, 1923, the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio was formed. Their first order of business was to sign the contract with Universal Studios, that Winkler Pictures had brokered. They then rented a small room in a real estate office and purchased a used camera for $200. Walt did the animation, and Roy operated the camera. At first, their only income was $85 from Roy's monthly Navy disability check. Walt knew that animation would be too time-consuming, and that his focus should be on development and direction. So, in anticipation of the payments from Winkler, he offered Iwerks a small salary and 20% of the company if he would join them in Hollywood. He also hired and trained other artists to do the tedious work of animating, and 2 girls for inking and painting the celluloids. One of those girls was Lillian Bounds. Walt then focused his energy on story development and directing, and in March of 1924, the first Alice comedies reached the theaters. Marriage. After the payments started arriving, Walt purchased a small car, and most evenings he offered his employees a ride home. And though the other workers lived further away, Walt always dropped Lillian Bounds off last. Walt and Lillian began dating and were married in 1925. The brothers placed a down payment on a large lot 1 week before their marriage. That purchase was the first step toward building a studio to house the Alice series production. Note, the brothers didn't sell stock in their studio until 17 years later. Meanwhile, Margaret Winkler also married one of her employees, Charles Mintz. And once she became pregnant, Mintz took over the management of Winkler Pictures. This caused a shift in the 2 companies' working relationship. Mintz never shared Margaret's enthusiasm for Disney's work and took every opportunity to downplay it.
You are listening to the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series. I'm Richard Dugan. He is Dennis Henson, and we are talking about the Real Impact Daily Inspiration book. And we're focusing today and for a few more weeks on the dreamer, Walt Disney, and we'll do that as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Tell Me Your Story brings you the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series with our very special guest, our good friend here on the program, Dennis Henson. And Dennis, I wanted to ask you, because maybe someone's just tuning in for the first time, what was it about Walt Disney and his story that intrigued you so much that not only you put him into Volume 1, but you also created such I'll call it a robust story?
His story was robust. That's why I put it in there. Years ago, there was a documentary on TV, and it talked about when Disney was young and the troubles that he had in Kansas City, where he got Laugh-O-Gram started and his studio was full and bustling, and there was lots of people there coming in and out, and he thought everything's great, this is going to last forever. And then everything fell apart. And one of the scenes was the studio was totally empty, and he was sitting there at his desk. And I thought, well, this is just so interesting. I'll watch it again. But unfortunately, I could never find it. I looked and looked. Recently, the History Channel has put out something, but it's not nearly as detailed as the story that you're listening to in the book. So I thought when I started doing the book, I thought that's one of the most interesting stories that I can imagine. And as I found more and more and more, that's why the story's so long.
Mm-hmm.
I initially was just going to tell the story about his Kansas City problems. Then he ran into other problems, and then other problems, and then other problems. And I thought, this is amazing. Nothing will get this guy. Nothing will get him down. He loses everything, and it doesn't faze him. He gets up, dusts off his pants, and goes again. His goal was to earn respect of the elite in Hollywood. He wanted to be a respected director, and he worked toward that goal, and ultimately won more Oscars even to today than any other person has ever won. So he got their respect, although it was a struggle at the beginning. We'll get to that part soon. But wasn't it interesting that he got down to where he didn't even have shoes? He
Hmm.
was, and he sold his camera and bailed his shoes out, and bought a train ticket, went to Hollywood because he thought, well, maybe people will have more interest in what I'm doing there. When he got off the train, he had $40 in his pocket, and everything he owned was in a suitcase.
Wow.
I just thought that's just so amazing that he could step off the train with literally nothing and become one of the greatest people that Hollywood's ever turned out.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And that shows his resilience, his tenacity as well. And it's one of the things that you're trying to bring out through these stories is encouraging people to develop those characteristics, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And
Yeah.
two, go ahead.
Well, he's a demonstration of the seven secrets of success, which is one of my other books, but he exemplifies those seven secrets.
Yeah.
He had his mind right. Nothing would deter him. He was going to he was going to become successful, regardless of how many times he failed and lost everything.
Yeah.
So
You know,
it's a fun story. Yeah.
oh, absolutely. And if anybody's ever been to any of the amusement parks, or for that matter, even gone to any of the Disney stores that are scattered all over the country and around the world, they're not necessarily in the parks. But everything's so brightly colored and cheerful, and it's just a lot of fun to walk around and just see what's what has been created over the decades from the vision that Walt had from the very beginning, and it's a testament, if you will, um, to the fact that he had a very positive vision and purpose and really really stuck to it. And I often wonder sometimes, Dennis, about the people who come behind him after he died, if they were able to carry on his vision. I mean, my brother actually worked for Disney in California, and he was an electrical engineer, and he traveled all over the world to the different amusement parks and has shared with me some of his experiences in that regard. And, it's just amazing how this genre, if you will, the amusement parks, transcends language in all of these different countries. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, later on in the story, it talks about the plans that he had. He died rather young. He was like in his 60s, mid 60s. But he had these wonderful visions of what he was going to do. And there's no doubt he would have done it. But uh, when he passed away, his brother Roy he was about to retire. I mean, he was done. He was exhausted. He was older, and when Walt died, he said, "Well, I'm going to see one of his visions through. Had it not been for Roy, we wouldn't have Disney World
Uh,
because Walt was not around for Walt Disney World. It took Roy years to get it up and going, but he changed the name to uh, Walt Walt Disney World, and spent whatever time it took. And then after he got it up and running, he didn't get Epcot, but he got Walt Disney World up. Then he retired soon after that.
mm-hmm.
But the answer to your question is no. Walt had it going. It was like a train. He had it really going fast, and it took it a long time to slow down. Even now, it's still going,
Yeah.
but that it doesn't have the same spirit or the same purpose as when Walt was around. It's totally different.
His goal was basically to make people happy, to
Yeah,
put a smile on their face. And
exactly.
unfortunately, as you and I both know, in this modern day and age, uh, companies and corporations, as what some businesses turn into, they focus on the bottom line. And that seems to be all that's important. And doesn't matter how they do it, as long as they can increase. And of course, a lot of folks, would then ask the question, well, how much is enough? And again, not to squelch anybody's capitalist or free enterprise endeavors, don't get me wrong, But when you lose the vision, it's like, okay, what's the point of even doing it? Because I mean, the founder, Walt Disney, he had such an incredible imagination as well, and he surrounded himself with a lot of great people. Again, one of those seven natural laws.
Right.
We're going to continue here talking more about Walt Disney, the Dreamer, as we continue here on the Real Impact Daily Inspiration series on Tell Me Your Story. And when we get back, we're going to talk about the web page, the website you can go to, and there's lots there for you. It's a treasure trove, if you will, as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan along with Dennis Hetson, and we're talking about the dreamer, Walt Disney. And I'm curious, you said that, I'll talk about this just a moment or ask you about this. You said that it was Disney World, and his brother Roy made it Walt Disney World. What's the significance there?
Well, he just wanted to honor his brother. He really loved his brother and respected him and gave him all the credit. However, you were talking about money. Walt really didn't care about money. That was his brother's problem. He just needed the money to do his projects.
Right.
He wasn't trying to accumulate a lot of money to become wealthy and live a lavish lifestyle, although he did live pretty comfortably. His major concern was his next big project, whether it was a movie or a theme park or a new toy or whatever it was. He had, I believe he died in '66, and the book covers all of the projects that he was working on. And they once he passed away later on that year, they almost all of them just went by the wayside without his enthusiasm and push and energy. Had it not been for Roy, we wouldn't have Disney World. It would have died also.
Well, I can tell you my experiences as a kid growing up and our family going on vacation to Disneyland here in California in Anaheim. And one of my favorite places was not really technologically advanced in any way, shape, or form, at least at my age at that time. And that was that island out in the middle of the lagoon that was sort of portraying a lot of the history, if you will, in reference to like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn and the steamboat that would travel around in the lagoon around the island. That was one of my favorite places. I loved to go there and play. It was a wonderful experience, and in a manner of speaking, sort of being in touch with nature, not putting any of the other attractions down by any means, because I did like the Ride of the Future, the Small World, and then there was that one where you go down into this you're taken down like you're being miniaturized. I can't remember the name of that ride, but just the whole experience was just a lot of fun. When have you been to Disneyland anytime recently or as a
Not
kid?
recently. I've been to both. In
Mhm.
'75, I went to Disneyland, which was 50 years ago. And then I've been to Disney World a couple of times, but those have been 30, 35 years ago. So not recently,
Yeah.
but I find them interesting, but they're really things of the past. I mean, once you get to a certain age, it's not
Yeah.
quite as exciting. Uh, you know, if I could take my grandchildren there, I know they'd have a great time. They really like Mickey Mouse and so forth. So that's what grandparents do. They take their grandchildren there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I hope people are able to get to one of the parks, or maybe they have been, and the memories that they have, wonderful memories. I'm not a fan of roller coasters myself, although I did ride the Matterhorn when we were there. And now, of course, they have, I guess it's, what is it called? The Great American Adventure, which is a park next door, right next door to Disneyland. And you can actually get tickets to where you can hop back and forth between those parks and so forth. And it's just, I think one of the other things too, setting aside the fact that maybe the folks at the top have sort of lost the vision, the parks themselves do provide, I think, a great service, not just in terms of being an amusement as an amusement park, but they help us to maybe get away from the day-to-day world that we live in and social media and all of these kinds of things. I mean, I really hope there aren't people walking around with their phones out, texting and doing all of that kind of stuff. Put it away and watch through your eyes the events. You know, there are more than enough videos that they've created up on YouTube and so forth. You don't need to do any more snapshots. That's fine, but enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the people and so forth. And if the island is still there, I don't know that it is. You know, take a trip over there. That was one of the other things I found so intriguing about Disneyland in particular. And I have a feeling they do this um, on a regular basis, but it may be years separated. And that is that they will have a ride for a long period of time, and then they'll close it and they'll change it into something totally different. And I don't know if that was part of Walt's vision and dream to kind of keep the excitement going. But I thought that was rather interesting that they would not leave the park exactly the way that it was. And I think when we went, there was still some vacant land they hadn't built on too. This was going back to the late 60s, early 70s, and they were still adding to it. I mean, this was only a few years after his passing. But that to me is a wonderful thing. The creativity that does go on to bring something new to the audience as they come into the park. We're
I agree.
talking. We're talking about the Dreamer, Walt Disney, from the Real Impact Daily Inspiration series here on Tell Me Your Story. And Dennis, I want to talk to you a little bit, or have you talk to us a little bit about this web page that we have been talking about throughout this series. It is realimpactbook.com. And there is a lot going on there, opportunities to get involved in different projects, to maybe acquire maybe a free copy of the Kindle or the Audible, to learn more about that lamp that's on the front cover of the book. Tell us about this page, this web page, realimpactbook.com, that we're linked to.
We spent a great deal of time putting that together, and I get lots of phone calls from people who want to get paid to help me promote my book and do formatting and other things. You know, the first thing they ask is, well, do you have a web page? And I say, yes. And they'll pull it up. And I'd love to hear the reaction, because when they pull it up, they go, whoa, it's a pretty nice. And it is. I mean, everybody should go and just check it out, because when you open it, you're going to go, whoa, this is a nice page. And there's so many things on there. I mean, there's free gifts. There's the mystery of the lamp. There's a place where you can go if you are listening to this podcast. You can scroll to the bottom where it says podcast attendee. Click on that, and you get 3 free gifts. And one of those is the audio. I mean the ebook, an instant download. And then there's a game that you can play and win the audiobook for free. I had a winner this morning. It thrills me when I open my mail and someone has won the audiobook, which is easy to do. You just have to find it's the game is it says one of the lamps escaped from the front of the book. Help us find it. So of course we have made it miniature and we've hidden it among the pages, which means you've got to look at several pages, and that was the whole idea. But it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look around until you find it. I think Richard was trying to find it on the first page.
Yes. Yeah, don't do like I do.
Yeah, you could look for hours, and well, it might be on the first page. I'm not going to say, but if we change it, every time someone wins, we move it somewhere else.
Right.
So there's, always have the chance to win.
Absolutely.
And then every month we give a free ebook from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I think this month it's the little book called It Works. And last month it was Richest Man in Babylon. It's it's great books, and they're free. You just go. So I want you to come back every month and see what's going on, what the specials are, what the gifts are. So I hope everyone will go there and check it out. Hope you'll get the free gift and hope you'll make a note and check it out the next month. But what I really hope you'll do is download the book, read it, and think, wow, this would be a great gift for my niece or my nephew or someone graduating from high school or college, because this is a life-changing book. If those young people can form the habit of reading something positive every day that moves them toward their goal, that will change their life. I was reading something today from Napoleon Hill talking about habits. And he said, the habits that you form are going to determine which way your life goes. If you have success habits, you're going to become successful. If you don't, who knows what's going to happen to you? So I think habits are really important. And someone asked me one time, what's the most important habit? That's where this book came from. I thought, well, if you form the habit of reading something positive every day that leads you toward your goal, number one, you have to think about your goal every day, so it doesn't let you get off track. And number two, it educates you, motivates you, it inspires you. So if you're thinking about, well, what would be a good book? Go to Amazon and look at the reviews. I challenge you. We have over 100 reviews and a 5-star average. Now, if you're an author, you know how hard that is. I mean, that's just really difficult. You got to have a really good book to get that many reviews and still have a 5-star rating. So read what people say, consider purchasing the book yourself, but most of all, think of who can I give this to change their life. If you're a grandparent, you want a legacy gift. Yeah. If you give this to some young person, they'll keep it the rest of their life. People don't give nice books away. They put them in their bookshelf and keep. And so if you write something positive in there, 50 years after you're gone, that person will still remember you because you gave them a nice gift.
Right. Absolutely. Well, folks, I have my hardcover version of the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series book, and it's on my bookshelf, and I pull it out every so often, and we will probably do one of these programs. We'll focus on some of the quotes as well as some of the poetry. And then you have 2 book lists in there. One's the bibliography, and then there's another list of books that have inspired you that you hope people will read and that will inspire them as well. And then I, of course, talk about the 3rd book list, and that's the one of the books that Abraham Lincoln read. And so you've got a lot of reading there, a lot of good stuff to inspire you. And we hope that you'll stay with us as we continue talking about the Real Impact Daily Inspiration series here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan along with Dennis Henson talking about the Real Impact Daily Inspiration series, and we're in volume 1. Apparently, Dennis, you've got some additional volumes that are going to be coming out. Tell us about those.
Volume 2 is the stories I didn't put in volume 1. And I've added a few that I have found that are really, really super interesting. And I think some of volume 2 may be even better than volume 1, although that's going to be hard to do. Volume 3, I saved all the stories that have to do with spiritual things. Mm-hmm. They're miracles. They're things where people were in a situation that it looked impossible for them to get out of, then a miracle happened, and you can see. And so those, to me, I think volume 3 is going to be the better of the 3. So that's the series. I'm also writing a series on success, the laws of nature for success and the 7 secrets of success. And they're kind of I don't know if you call them a series. They're just 2 books, but they're bookends. Mm-hmm. You really need to get both of them together. Those are coming out soon. Those are both finished, and they're being formatted, which is sometimes that's as difficult as writing the book, but getting it formatted properly. Yeah. And each of them have a workbook or a journal with them to help you take advantage of the secrets. and move your life in a different direction.
Yeah. Well, it's extraordinary that you've put this together, and of course, volumes 2 and 3, and of course, we certainly encourage people to get copies. Is what I find interesting is, of course, the 7 Secrets of Success, and I know that's the title of the book, but they aren't really secrets. They've been out there for generations, for decades, for centuries. And you told the story of creating this book, of thinking about it, going because you were talking with someone and saying, "Well, where are these secrets? Where are these written down
Right.
somewhere?" And you couldn't.
Yeah,
They said, "Well, there isn't one." And you looked, and well, then I'll write it. Doggone it!
that's right. Jack McConaughey, when I went into business, I went to work for a very large company, and the vice president of the company just took me under his wing. I mean, it was like when I met him, I had known him all my life. We became really close friends, and he was coaching me for free. I mean, and he just liked me, and I liked him. So he was telling me, he said, there's these certain things that if you do these, your life's going to be easy. You're going to make lots of money. You can have lots of friends. Everything's going to be wonderful. Well, he had just given me 3 books. Think and Grow Rich, Success, the Glenn Bland Method, and The Greatest Salesman in the World. He'd just given me those, and I read them, and they really got me excited. So when he was telling me this, I thought, well, he's talking about a book. And then I said, well, stop. Where's that book? I want to read this book. That's the book I want to read. And he says, no. It's not in any one book. It's a life study, which turned out to be true. My life study. Because when I left, I said, he can't be right. It's got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
So I looked for books. I read thousands of books and articles. And then when the internet, I looked and there wasn't one. So I determined that I was going to write one. And I did, and it's finished, and it's good. It's my favorite book. I gave it to someone to write the foreword, and they just wrote a beautiful, beautiful foreword on it. So I'm excited to get that one out. I think there's a lot of excitement about when it comes out. It's probably going to be a good seller because so many people have an interest in it. Every time I mention it on one of these podcasts, it like people's eyes open up. Well, that's one I want to read, and you'll be glad you did.
Oh,
I believe.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, you are obviously leaving. I mean, you talk about the book as a legacy gift that one might buy, a grandparent might buy for their
Right.
grandchildren, that kind of thing. But let's talk a little bit about uh, how much thought have you put into the legacy that you will leave behind?
The books are my legacy.
Hmm.
I had some pretty serious health problems about 7 years ago. In fact, I almost died. And when I was recuperating, I thought, well, I want to leave the world in a better place than it was. So
Hmm.
that right after that was when I was on that podcast, and I thought, well, I can do this. I can put this book together, and then people can form the habit of reading something positive every day. Because regardless of their time, I'm going to put long things, middle things, short things, and then a list of books. So I thought that's going to be my legacy. And I had such a good time writing it that I thought I'll just do something every day until I'm gone, because there's a lot of things. Having done as much study and reading and listening as I've done, I have a lot of things to share. And I'm obsessive compulsive, which means I can put things in order.
Hmm.
If I don't go to McDonald's because it's not healthy, but when I did, and I got the fries, I put the long fries here, the middle fries here, and the short ones here. And I didn't eat them until they were perfect. And so that's the way my books are. They're all very logical and they're easy to follow uh, because of my disease. My problems actually help in some ways.
Sure. Well, and I know that there are those who have these conditions, however you want to phrase it, their personality traits or what have you, and they will turn them into something and use them in such a way that facilitates their life's purpose, the goal that they've set for themselves, shall we say. And I know that that is one of the first things that you have to do while you're reading those inspirational words on off the page or your device or what have you, is set a goal. And our goal is, of course, to work our way through this book and the stories. And we're going to continue doing that as we continue here on the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series here on Tell Me Your Story. Well, we're just about out of time here on the program, just a few minutes left. And Dennis, I would like for you, if you would, we've done this many, many times over this year. I'd like to give you the last word in regards to what we heard, of course, at the beginning of the program about Walt Disney and the message in that particular stint, because I know we're going to be wrapping that up in about 3, 4, 5 weeks. But share with us your insights into what we've talked about today.
I believe reading stories about people who struggled really, really hard, and it looked like they were not going to be able to get through it. And they just hung in there and got through it anyway and became massively successful, and so much that everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
I think reading those kind of things are good for you because every life has difficulties.
Yeah.
It's like the seasons of the year. You're going to have a winter, and you're going to have summer. Things are going to get nice and warm, and things are going to get really cold, and it's a cycle. But if you study people who have gone through those cycles and how they weathered the storm and how they made it through, it gives you inspiration. And that's the name of the book, Daily Inspiration. If you read a poem or a quote or one of the stories, you will be inspired because a lot of thought went into making it an inspirational book. And reading the reviews that I get on Amazon just thrills me because when somebody says, oh, the book just came at the right time. I was having such a difficult time. And when I read about these people, there was no comparison in what they were going through and what I'm going through. It just gave me the courage to get up and move on. So I'm pretty thrilled about that. And I guess for the last word, I'd say there's a link on the website, realimpactbook.com, that says Help the Children.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on that, there's a GoFundMe there, and you can donate a little something. And all of the money that you donate will be used to purchase these books to give to children in disadvantaged communities that would probably never be able to have anything like this.
Yeah.
So 100%, there's no overhead for running a business or anything. Every penny that you put in goes toward purchasing the book to give to disadvantaged. And you never know when you're going to help someone, what kind of a change they're going to make in the world. So I hope you'll consider doing that too.
That's one of the things I think about too when we lose people, when people pass on, especially through unfortunate situations. And I think, pardon me, of the lost potential from that life, what they could have contributed. And so it's incumbent upon us, you and I, and those people listening and watching, to realize that their life has meaning. You do have a purpose. You have to find it. No one can show it. No one can find it for you. You have to find it. And then when you've found it, set a goal. And then while you're working on focusing on that goal every day, read something that's inspirational. And Dennis, we are grateful to you for what you've provided us through the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series. Thank you so much for that. And we look forward to continuing our conversation about the dreamer, Walt Disney, in our next program. I thank you folks for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., And we are here Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times, all 9 of them, at richarddugan.com. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. And we're on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. I hope you'll subscribe and click notification. And I also hope you'll go to Amazon and purchase a copy of my book, Choices 5 Steps for Life. It's available in hardcover, paperback, Kindle, and Audible. And if you could leave us a tip, we would be gratefully appreciative. We have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And if you go to richarddugan.com, at the top of that page, or at least at the top portion, there are 2 links. One to Amazon for Choices 5 Steps for Life, and one to PayPal for your tip. That is our tip jar. It's a virtual tip jar, ladies and gentlemen. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to all. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.